Hello, hello, hello. Someone asked me to explain what I meant because I left a comment about how I believe that a lot of the brown people that we see today are, to me, in my opinion, they're different. They're not the same people at all. Like, I don't think they're the same people as some of the people from previous generations. A person asked me to discuss what do I mean by that, because there have been many evil bloodlines that have been able to replicate themselves regardless of what they've done. Okay, now this is just my opinion. So when I say that, I don't have like any real proof on it, but this is kind of how I feel about things. And a lot of things I say come from stuff that I see when I don't ask to see it. I might see it like with my eyes closed, like I guess, or I might have a dream, and I see what's going on with the brown people. Okay, first I want to say this: what I do know is that a lot of brown people today are what you would call the ancient gods before brown people fell to such a low vibration as being a human being. They were actually the ancient gods, okay? And gods is not even a proper name for it, but that's what I'm going to say because that's the name people know. God is not even a proper name. God is something that's new, okay? That kind of came along like probably in the last few thousand years, okay? So that's not even a proper name for a group of people before they fell into a human form. They were gods about billions of years ago, creating whatever, okay, creating universes, creating everything, right? And they were on a brown people were on a much higher vibration. Now, the brown Americans are under such attack. Like, I can't help but to see that the main focus, even though brown people around the world are under attack, I can't help but to notice that the brown Americans are under the most vicious attack than any other brown person. I can't help but to notice that. Now, so there are other evil bloodlines, like you will say the Bill Gates and all that stuff, that are able to keep replicating themselves without. Number one, I don't want to use them as an example because I don't think their breeding is actually reckless like that. A lot of those families, royal families or whoever, they kind of like to keep things in their bloodline. So, but I would say this: nobody is really attacking them to dumb them down. So a lot of those evil races, they're evil, but they're not being attacked in a way to make sure they never rise up. A lot of brown people, especially in the United States of America, they are being attacked. And I want to make this clear. I'm not making excuses for terrible behavior. I want to make that clear. I'm not making excuses for terrible behavior because I am going to say this. They are under attack. Mentally attack. I've already seen it. Mentally, they're under attack. I've already seen where the government, I actually call them the governor of the minds, because the mind is not the actual person. You're not the mind, okay? So the mind is actually an illusion. It's like the ego. The mind is an illusion. Okay, and then there's other entities that like kind of control the mind. So when people think of the government, they think of the government as something like this particular system with the money and stuff like that. I think of the government as a group of entities that literally control the minds of people, because the mind is, you're not the mind. You're not, you can try to protect that so nothing else will get in, but that's why so many people are able to throw black magic at each other like that, because of this mind that's really an illusion. It's not actually you. So now, to get to the point, because most people use that, it's like the universal matrix mind. That's what a lot of people use. What you call your mind is actually like a universal matrix mind. And there is a group of entities that that completely understand the universal matrix mind more than anybody else, because a lot of people believe that the mind is theirs. Okay, and those and this is from experience. I didn't read this in any books. This is literally what I've seen, and this is what I experienced, and this is what I see. So in order to really kind of see this for yourself, it's okay to read because somebody knows the truth. But some of this stuff I'm kind of seeing for myself. Okay. Let me explain to you what I mean. Okay, so yeah, there's a group of entities when people call the government or shadow government, whatever you want to call it. These are entities that's like probably fourth dimensional or whatever. They might be called archons too. Archons is probably not the real name for them, but this name called archons is used. They're like fourth dimensional, and they literally kind of mess with the minds of people because, like I said, once again, the mind is not you. But we have fallen into such a low state that we believe we are the mind. That's how we kind of became physical in our minds. See, we're actually physical only in our minds because of a fallen state that we're in, right? And this is the fallen state that a lot of brown people, especially in the United States of America, are in. A lot of brown people in the United States of America, especially a lot of brown people in the United States of America are fallen angels. They're fallen angels, okay? And there are other fallen gods, okay? Not necessarily just fallen angels, but other fallen gods. The brown woman, what she looked like today is not what she looked like 1,500 billion years ago. She probably was a lot taller, She didn't look like no human. This is like a human form, okay? This is like a really de-evolved kind of form. But these entities are aware that's running the world. They are aware of who brown people in the United States of America are. They are aware of the ancient gods that they used to be. But brown people, a lot of them are still asleep, okay? Let me say I think a lot of brown women are asleep because when I listen to brown men, they are not asleep like people think they are. People, when they call brown men degenerate, low down, and all that stuff. But the reason for their behavior is, I don't think it's because they're asleep. I think that's their true nature. I think that billions of years ago, there was a war between that group of entities, which are called brown men today, and a group of entities which are called brown women today. I think there was a huge war, and a lot of brown women have been giving birth to people who actually might be their enemies. Okay, I'm talking about at an ancient type of level. Okay, so these entities that run the world. So that's why I say I don't think brown men are sleeping. People want to call them sleep based on their behavior, but their hatred is we can blame it on how they mother raised them and all that stuff. We get that people go through trauma, but I kind of already know that this is an ancient battle. Okay, there was a battle between this group of people, the brown woman and the brown male. There was an ancient battle. Okay, and his behavior is in his cellular memory. Okay, a lot of them are aware of who they are, but a lot of brown women are not aware of who they are. So brown women keep trying to hold on to the brown male and figure out how she gonna fix them, but they don't realize these are kind of their enemies from days of old. Okay, not every last one of them, but a lot of them are. Okay, but get into back to what I was saying. Yeah, so what's happening is purposely done to make sure that neither brown women or brown men, even though they're enemies, because they are enemies, okay? They might not want to see it, but they're enemies. But not 100% of brown men and brown women are enemies. There are some brown women and brown men that get along well, but for the most part, this group of brown males, as we can see as a collective, they're your enemy. It's not because it's because of something that you're not awakened to what really went on. You have to really to really get an idea of who these guys are and why there's such a battle. You have to really work on I don't want to just say repairing your DNA, because there have been talks about what DNA really is and if it's even real, but really getting into your cellular memory to kind of have some kind of glimpse of what's going on, because these men, these guys, they are aware of who brown women are, and they are purposely trying to keep brown women from rising, okay? Because they are aware of who they might have been billions of years ago, but brown women don't seem to be awake to it yet, okay? But be that as it may, while the brown male is working hard on making sure the brown woman don't rise, you got what's called this white man just making sure this brown man don't rise. And he making sure the brown woman don't rise too. This white woman want to make sure she don't rise, okay? Because the white woman, for the most part, kind of want her place, okay? And so there has been an effort to cause mental confusion. There has been a nonstop effort to cause mental confusion. And the way that can happen is because we are using something that really does not belong to us, which is called the mind. The mind is actually our enemy. The mind is our enemy. The mind is not an enemy to everybody, but the mind is an enemy, it seems like, to a lot of brown people. The mind is your devil. Okay? The mind is your devil. If you are subscribed to me, you might see in your what's it called? Where I uploaded a video called "The Mind Is Your Enemy." Is the real enemy. The mind is the real enemy. I put it on unlisted, but if you're subscribed, then you will see that you might have gotten that alert still. Okay. But I put it on unlisted because it was, I kind of made it in the spur of a moment because something happened while I was doing a meditation, and I saw for 100% that the mind is the enemy. It's my enemy. It's not everybody else's enemy. It's not an enemy to a lot of Europeans maybe, but it's an enemy to me, okay? And it's an enemy to a lot of brown people, especially in the United States of America, okay? The mind is like a different type of creation. It's like, let me tell you, it's like artificial intelligence. The mind that we mostly use is like artificial intelligence, because your actual original soul is your original intelligence, not this mind that everybody's been using. If most brown people have become their own soul, first of all, they will be in too high of a vibration to be even in this kind of reality, for one thing, okay, because they will be in like higher dimensions. But there would be no way that any other entities would be able to control it, okay? But because a lot of us still use this universal matrix mind, because that's all we know, then you have other entities that's able to control it, and they're able to cause confusion. And this is what a lot of has done. And so to kind of finish it, I remember listening to Bobby Hemmett, right? And Bobby Hemmett was talking about how in the 80s, 70s and 80s, you couldn't hardly you would see, like, he was just talking about basically just porn, right? Nothing against porn. I don't have nothing against porn. He was just kind of making a point, right? I don't watch it either, but I don't judge it. I don't care about it, okay? But I'm just kind of like looking at the point that he was making, right? So like in the 80s or whatever, you might have saw maybe a few brown women that was involved in porn like that. Might just a few brown women involved in porn. Probably lots of brown males involved in porn. But you only saw maybe a handful of brown women involved in porn. And so because he's an older male, okay, born in the 60s, I think he was born in the 60s and maybe even the 50s, but I believe he was born in the 60s. He has a better memory, okay? When it came to the 90s, he said that number of brown women that was involved in porn nearly probably quadrupled and even more than that. Now, how can that happen? How can you change somebody's mind so easily like that? Okay, and so the conclusion was is that a lot of brown women in the 90s were clones. They are not the original women from the 80s and from the 70s and from the 60s. Many of them are clones. Okay, many of them are clones. That was the conclusion that he came to when he saw that in the 90s, right? That a lot of brown women are clones. Okay, so a lot of brown people in the United States of America, I have seen that they are clones, right? They're clones, meaning that they are completely taken over. Okay, completely taken over, almost like possessed. That's why it seems like it's like they can never get right. They can never get right because they're not themselves. They're clones. Okay, and that's kind of what I mean by that, is that the brown people that we see today are completely different from the brown people that we saw generations ago, because between the 80s and the 2000s, there has been a lot of possessions and clonings of brown people. Now, the question is, could be probably why, and that is something to dig deep into. That is something to definitely delve into. But it almost reminds me of the movie called Get Out by Jordan Peele. A lot of what we call Europeans or Caucasians, some of them, their time has expired a long time ago. Their time was up some time ago. And I get the feeling that a lot of brown people are being cloned in some of these entities. Not all Europeans that you see, not the average European that you see, but some of them are trying to cloak themselves in brown people. Okay? They're cloaking themselves in brown people, thinking that they're slick enough to get by because their time was actually up a few decades ago. Okay, so that's why I say that. And in order, it's not to say that they can't come back, because you saw what happened at the end of that movie when that guy took a picture, those guys' picture, and then those guys ended up remembering who they were. So that is why I say it's not necessarily too late for them, but a lot of brown people, they have been hijacked. They have been hijacked. Okay, their consciousness has been hijacked. Okay, and that's what I mean by that. I don't necessarily mean physical genes, and the reason why I don't mean physical genes because the physical reality is an illusion. I would always say that. The physical reality is an illusion. So what I mean by completely different, I mean they have been taken over. They've been taken over. And this is why you're not going to get the unity that you want until there's going to be a cleansing done, and you will see that there has been a lot of cloning that's been happening. A lot of their consciousness has been hijacked by what you might want to call archons, or these entities that look like they're white, but they're actually a specific bloodline, probably, because the average European is not doing that. Okay, so these people that you would call white, they're actually probably a specific bloodline. Okay, the average white person that I might see at Starbucks or across the street ain't probably doing that, but at the same time, I don't know who they are. Okay, excuse me, but yeah, so that's what I mean. Their consciousness has been hijacked, but then at the same time, if these in the right frequency, I guess these brown people might still wake up and remember who they are, but they have to put the work in to get them back to themselves. Okay, I speak from experience. Let me just say that. I speak from experience. Okay, And with that being said, I will talk later.